Joining me now in studio, Washington Post editorial columnist Michael Gerson and Bill Kristol, editor of the Weekly Standard. Gentlemen, nice to see you. I'm playing the role of Andrea today, but I think, Michael, as we were talking about just in this break right now, you think what happened last night was the worst possible outcome for Republicans. Why?
Well, we could have been at a tipping point moment if he had done really poorly last night, where Ryan and McConnell may have come out and really changed the dynamic fundamentally. What he did was well enough with listeners of Rush Limbaugh or viewers of Breitbart doing exactly what they would want him to do, shored up essentially that base, while doing absolutely nothing to do outreach to anyone else in the country. So he improved his position without actually improving your prospects for the party. And it was fundamentally selfish performance.
Bill, what's your take on that?
No, I agree with that. Of course, we don't really know that he reassured his base. I mean, a bunch of people who work for Mike Pence and a bunch of people who are so invested in Pence that they can't go anywhere else, Newt Gingrich, Rudy Giuliani, said they were reassured. We don't have empirical data. I'm not so sure that everyone who's a fan of Rush Limbaugh saw that and was reassured by Trump's explanation or semi-apology for the tape or other things he said. I mean, what about, you know, on a million issues, incidentally? The president's going to order the attorney general to appoint a special prosecutor. Aren't there supposed to be rules for how special prosecutors get appointed, not ordered by the president to do it, to go after someone you don't like? What about, I mean, the whole thing. So I actually think they did a good job of spinning, actually, after the debate that, oh, well, now he can't be dumped from the ticket. But why not? Why not? This is just a failure of nerve on the part of leading Republicans here, not to say that this man should go if there's a chance to save the Republican Party. In the
so let me get your take from inside. I know you have a relationship to Mike Pence. You've known him over the course of a couple decades. What do you hear from inside his world, as it were? And what do you think is a feasible solution at this point? He came on, did all the shows effectively today, and he said, hey, you know, I'm on board. I was proud of my man last night.
I know. It makes me really feel sick almost, honestly. I can't believe it's true. I've known him a long time. But he's bought in and he feels he has to stay, I suppose. But it's wrong. He's the guy who could topple Trump. If he said, I'm going to resign from this ticket. Other people have resigned from. Tom Eagleton was nominated by the convention. He turned out to have some problems. He resigned from the ticket. There's a mechanism to replace him. He should say, I just cannot run with this man. And he humiliated Pence last night. He contradicted Pence on Syria, which, fine. Okay, he's the presidential nominee. He doesn't have to agree with his vice presidential. But then think about what did Mike Pence say this morning? Oh, my earlier remarks were misunderstood. Mike Pence said in a nationally televised vice presidential debate, we should use military force against Assad's military assets in Syria. Trump, this morning, he says, oh, I didn't say anything like that. I've always agreed with Trump. Pence is humiliating himself. And the Republican leaders are humiliating themselves in the effort to what? To do what? They're going to get clobbered anyway.
Yeah, and the wild card factor here is this is a guy that probably has more of a record. You know, we haven't seen everything we're going to see. There's 4 weeks left. He is a depraved personality on this evidence. There will be a trail, not just a single event. Republicans could be putting themselves on the line for absolutely nothing if we get further revelations here, which is not impossible.
And in fact, there's a lot on the line right now. Let's put up one of the new poll numbers that we have just coming out at this hour. And this shows what Americans, according to the NBC News Wall Street Journal poll, think among likely voters. There is the 46 to 35%. But specifically on Congress, 49% of Americans on a generic ballot said they'd prefer a Democratic-controlled Congress, 42% for Republicans. Bill, that at the end of the day, as Paul Ryan had to explain with House Republicans today, that's what the great fear is for many Republicans in terms of what's really at stake right now.
I mean, I've always thought this was possible, that the bottom could fall out for Trump, which it maybe is doing. I mean, maybe not. Let's see. But I think it probably is. And that would lead to a wave. And the wave never rarely manifests itself 3 or 4 months out. It usually hits right around now, and suddenly everyone looks up and says, whoa, all those safe Senate seats in Missouri and North Carolina, those might be going down the tubes, and all those safe House seats. I mean, no one thought the 06 or, as Chuck Todd said, that the 2006 or 2010 waves would happen until about now, 4 weeks out. But again, the degree to which all these members think that the only thing they can think about is their political self-preservation. Paul Ryan's people are putting out proudly. He's distancing himself. He's not going to campaign with him. He's telling every member, do what's right for you to preserve yourself. Really? Don't they ever maybe just stop calculating politically and try to do the right thing? You know, sometimes Churchill has this wonderful line, if I can just take one more second, about Munich, where he says, you know, political calculations are very hard and very uncertain, and so it's hard to figure out. And you can't always just say, be pure morally, because that's not what politics is about. So follow honor. You know, the safest thing to do is
Michael,
to do the honorable thing.
What should vulnerable Republicans do right now?
Well, I agree with that. And evangelicals in particular should be speaking out for values, not just being on a team.
Remarkably, they seem the most supportive,
which is totally discrediting.
Michael Gerson, Bill Kristol in person, nice to see both of you. We appreciate it. A couple more times, we should bring this band back together.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.
Latest piece explores whether Hillary Clinton could actually win Texas.
Philip, looks like she could. Why? What's happening?
It does. I mean, it does look like she could. I mean, part of it is the fact that she's ahead by so much nationally, right? I mean, when she gets ahead by that far, and she's at her highest peak. I mean, we saw this huge jump after the conventions. She's basically back there now. And once you see that, it's going to pull a lot of states to the left. I mean, you can't, you know, Texas is 8% of the country. You can't be ahead that far nationally and not be doing well in Texas. But part of it is demographics, right? I mean, you know, 40% Hispanic. There are a lot of folks that have moved, as Nate Silver pointed out on 538. A lot of folks have moved into Texas with college educations. That's a demographic that's favorable toward Hillary Clinton. So there's a lot of ways in which this is lining up. I mean, Texas now is a closer state than Pennsylvania or Wisconsin.
And we're also seeing the wages of sin as death. If the sin is being seen as somebody that launched your campaign attacking Hispanics, attacking Mexicans.
Sure.
And that's what it was perceived as. And he'll argue about the exact language, but that's what it's perceived as.
Look, one of the fastest growing Hispanic vote share states is Georgia. And so now you look at Texas, you look at Arizona, you look at the state of Utah, where the third-party candidacy of Evan McMillan is taking off. All of these red states could turn blue. All of them.
Wow.
All of them, which would mean
So do you agree with Podhoretz that the meltdown is on? It has begun?
Oh, it is begun and been on for some time now. I mean, it's been on for the 46-minute mark of the first debate, and you've had a continuum of behavior. So the first debate, he was incoherent, he was unprepared. He finished that by tweeting at 3, 4, 5 in the morning at a Miss Universe, raising questions of temperament, and it's gone from bad to worse since then. And the numbers by the Friday before the tape came out were in meltdown. Republicans had already taken the glass case off the red
That's what I was going to ask you.
button.
You said it was before the tapes came out. The tapes were obviously bad enough, horrific politically, and also, of course, very offensive to Americans. But even before then, I'm hearing from inside the campaign, they started bleeding out numbers when he started going after Miss Universe.
Absolutely.
That is what really started to cause women to flee.
Absolutely. Think of skiing. You're going down a mountain. If you stay straight, the steeper the mountain, the faster you go. And that's what's happening now. So we're seeing these red states start to turn blue. 20 days to go. The magnitude of the electoral catastrophe for Republicans that is upon them just really can't be overstated.
So what does Paul Ryan do? He really keeps that endorsement going?
Well, look, I think that Paul Ryan and the test that Republicans now have is to step back and understand that Trump's attacks on the system of how we choose our leaders in this country, and it may be imperfect, but it's the best system we have, and it's the best system in the world, and there is no systemic fraud. There has never, ever, ever been a candidate for president of the United States who has questioned the legitimacy of how we choose the leaders. It is an attack on the foundations of our democracy. Paul Ryan is a constitutional officer. Paul Ryan must speak to this. It is time for Republican leaders to say enough is enough.
So what you're saying is this is an opportunity for Paul Ryan.
Absolutely.
Marco Rubio did it yesterday.
Well, and Marco Rubio, to his everlasting credit, the second unprecedented part of this is you have the active engagement of a hostile foreign power seeking to influence an American presidential election. Again, unprecedented. It's never happened. It was not without accident that the person that Ronald Reagan picked as his ambassador to the Soviet Union was the great Democratic Party statesman Bob Strauss. He sent the former DNC chairman Bob Strauss to the Soviet Union to make the point that the differences of opinion in our country are a source of our strength, not division. And so when you are rooting on the Republican Party, Ronald Reagan's party, rooting on the engagement of a hostile foreign power into the middle of an election, it's unprecedented.
So if it's not sexism, racism, shooting someone on Fifth Avenue, insulting Senator McCain, I don't know, making fun of people with disabilities. Maybe it's the threat to the democracy that might get people to pull their endorsements?
As appalling as all of those things are, the country is far stronger. But when you aim at the institutions of our democracy, it's at a different level.
It had to come to that.
Which does not, and I do not mean to mitigate the attacks on disabled people or the racist or the misogynist statements, but the country transcends that.
I think
the attack on the institutions is bad.
What's fascinating, Willie, is that, again, of all the things Donald Trump's done, and we've done it for a year and a half, asked, what will it be that takes him down? What will it be that will pose the gravest threat to him? It was the fat shaming of a Miss Universe.
Yeah. I agree.
Again, Trump's own people will tell you this, that's when the numbers collapsed among women, and they have to get those women back, or it is a rout.
Many people pointed, as Donald Trump struggled through the summer, to the debates as a moment when he could change the dynamic of the race. Well, he did, for the worse. In that first debate, it wasn't the Access Hollywood tape. That didn't help.
Believe it or not.
This started during that debate when Hillary Clinton planted that trap. She said it. She said at the end of the debate, she introduced Miss Machado,
randomly, she blurted it out.
And trolled Donald Trump so hard that she got him to go for a week tweeting about her, as Steve said in the middle of the night.
It was a week.
Right.
He stayed on that for a week, which of course gave women across America. And again, I talked about it the night after with my parents' night, when I was at parents' night, and all the women that were outside going, oh, really?
They were.
She's fat?
In my neighborhood, not happy camp.
I think that moment will go down as one of the key moments in presidential debate history. I mean, you're exactly right. It was a brilliantly laid trap, and then we quickly found out that there were interviews lined up, that there was an ad lined up. It was very well played. And I think that, to Steve's point earlier, one of the things we're seeing in new polls, a new Bloomberg poll came out, the most recent post-ABC poll, is that men are starting to bail on Donald Trump as well.
White working class men?
Even some white working class men, yes. But men with college degrees more, but white working class men as well. You know, we expected this race to be about, people of color rebelling against Donald